Konnichiwa, Nihon Cricket Pod Yokoso. Welcome to the Japan Cricket Podcast. I am your host, as ever, Alan Kerr, and with me, my co-host, looking very festive, Todd Luckhurst. How are you, Todd?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Alan. Yes, Merry Christmas to all. We're recording just before Christmas, so that's why we've got our Christmas hats on. I've got a Essendon Football Club Christmas jumper on. It's a bit cool here today. Rained a lot yesterday. It's about 17 degrees Christmas Day, so it's a bit cool to what we're normally used to, but I'm sure everyone will be enjoying the festive seasons.
Mate, your hat's pretty sparkly, actually. I'm impressed with that. As I
Oh,
as
yeah.
I mentioned before we came online, it's not quite a hand knitted by your mother elf's hat, even though my green bobble has fallen off of this hat, which is a bit disappointing. But it's still pretty good, mate. Well done, well played. And yeah, your Essendon hat is definitely outdoing my OT cricket top. Um, but yeah,
Yes,
credit where it's due.
thank you. So, my lovely wife headed out to the shops today picking up for me, so thank you to Jennifer.
Oh, it was an
And
early Christmas present, was it?
The hat was, not the jumper. The jumper's a couple of years old, but we don't usually get to wear Christmas jumpers, Alan, down here, as you know, because of the heat. So it's a
Yeah,
nice change.
yeah, good for you, mate. All right, look, let's jump straight in it. Festive special will be largely dominated by under 19 cricket. The under 19 team were away in the UAE during November in the under 19 ACC Premier Cup in a group with the Maldives, Oman, and Qatar. You want to run us through those results, Toddy?
Yeah, so we have the match results here. So Japan played the Maldives. Japan won by a whopping 366 runs. Then the next game, Japan played Oman. It wasn't the best game for Japan, lost by 8 wickets, but hit back well in the third game against Qatar, winning by 183 runs.
Yeah, so that meant that we went out in the group stages. Of course, this tournament was probably the tournament where Japan under 19s really began to make their name 2 years ago. At the Premier Cup in Malaysia in 2023, it was Charlie Harahin's first tournament for Japan actually, and in that tournament we knocked over Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia to make it through to the Asia Cup, which is what the boys have played in the last 2 years. So going into this tournament, I think there were some high hopes and probably a bit of expectation about certainly making the last four and being in the playoff for that final place at the Asia Cup was probably what we had kind of hoped. So yeah, for to lose out on that in a pretty disappointing performance against Oman obviously left the boys a little bit flat. But I think looking at the positives, there were some pretty good individual performances across the three match days. Have you got all those down in front of you, Toddy? You want to run through them?
Yeah, so we had the game against the Maldives. We had Nihar got a century, got 156 of 132 balls. Fantastic innings by him. He smashed them all by the park by the looks of things. And then also in that game, we had Monty got 67, Hugo 62, and Kaz picked up 59 runs. So they did well. And the wickets were shared between seven bowlers. So no real notable contributions there. But well done to everyone with the bat, especially Nihar. Fantastic effort.
Yeah,
In the
his
Oman
second
game,
hundred of the year, of course, for Nihar made 160 against Singapore back in April. So he's a guy showing that once he's in, he's very much a difficult man to dislodge. And I think going into the World Cup, his performance is going to be pretty key for Japan.
yeah, he's done very well with the bat this year. He's had two centuries for Japan, and he's a very exciting player for the future. And looking forward to seeing how he goes in the World Cup. In the Oman game, there wasn't really many highlights, was there? It's a bit of a poor effort, not a poor effort, but not the best played cricket by Japan. So there wasn't really anything to talk about in that game. But in the Qatar game, Kasey got 106 off 73 balls when the team was in trouble. Batted sensationally well. Then we had Charlie with 50, Taylor got 40, and Ariane got 4 for 13.
Yeah, it was an interesting game that because having lost at Oman, I think the boys it was a bit of a down to earth, a bit of a bump, um, and so for it was an important game to win, and we'd seen that Qatar certainly at senior men's level they're a very strong side. So at 120 odd for seven, no sorry for five, I think we were pretty concerned. Charlie had just got out, so for Kaisei to come in and make us 100, he had a long partnership with Skylar Nakayama Cook, I think in that innings, and the second 100 of the year for him too, of course. At this time, going one better. He went 100 at the under 16s earlier in the year, so his first under 1900. So to come in and batting at seven and to do that is really encouraging. It shows the depth that we have in that batting lineup. He's still a young lad, really. He's still only 16. So I think as you look up and down that batting order, there's quite a few guys who have got runs under their belt in a Japan shirt now, who've at least made sort of 40s, 50s, and a couple of guys with hundreds. So that's pretty exciting for the team. As you said, against Oman, it was difficult. They played that first game against the Maldives on a very flat, very batting friendly track, hence scoring 400 plus. And I think after that game, everyone's very up and about. As I said, coming into the tournament, expectations were high. And then they moved onto a different pitch, spinning wicket, low and slow, and really struggled. And suddenly they're all out for 170, or I think it was 170 for nine, maybe. And the disappointing thing really was the ease with which Oman chased it down. So whilst the batting was poor for Oman to chase it down for just the loss of two wickets was a bit of a disappointment for the boys. And I think, like I said, a bit of a wake up call. So they then moved back to the same ground and the same track that they played the first game on for that Qatar match. And so again, a bit more batter friendly. And I think that showed in the totals, being able to put up nearly 280 in the 50 overs. I guess the biggest sort of plus point as such from these matches is that the team batted 50 overs in all three games. So even though Oman was a struggle to score, they still stuck it out and didn't fold, which you do see teams at under 19 level do quite a lot. So it was good to see the boys kind of stick in that game, even if they couldn't defend the total. And against Qatar, I think they ended up rolling them over for around about 100. So it was another big win.
Yeah, of course. Great lead into the World Cup coming up next month, Alan. So there was one more game, Alan. There was a practice match against a local team?
Yeah, so because the way the ACC operate, this tournament, as I mentioned on the last pod, was particularly difficult to organise the logistics for, and we ended up booking our flights to return after the final. But that means if you do go out, as we did, you have quite a lot of dead time. We saw it with the under 16s earlier in the year. They had like 10 days or something crazy with nothing to do. So we planned to try and get some cricket in, but the partners that we usually use weren't available. So thankfully, Hong Kong Cricket actually helped us out and put us on to some guys. They were in a group of three, so they had a lot of dead time at the start of the tournament, and they played against a local club out in Ajman, where the teams were based. And so they put us in touch with that club, and we were able to organise a friendly game against those guys. And it was probably not many people actually know about this game or that it even took place. So the Japan team bowled out Tripo Turf under 18s for 119 in 28 overs. The wickets were shared around as they often are. And then it was decided that Japan would try and chase 240. That was the target that was set. And the boys chased that two down with runs for a few guys at the top of the order. Hugo got another 68. Taylor made 50 for the first time, and Kaisei made 30. Those two both retired to give other guys a go. So, I think it was good for players just to get more of a bat and use that time because, there's a World Cup coming up, and you kind of need to get as much time together, but also as much meaningful cricket as you can. So they had a training session on one day, and they had that match as well. So it wasn't wasted time, and of course they left that tour knowing that the next time they see each other will be in Windhoek for the World Cup. And the tournament itself, the Premier Cup, yes, it's an Asia Cup qualifier. Yes, that's really important for the group, but actually, when it's 1 month before a World Cup and just 6 weeks before a World Cup, and you've got to finalise your squad, that chance to have a look at those players who are vying for the last few places and give guys a go was pretty important. And the guys who put their hand up and did well are the ones who ended up getting those places. So we mentioned Monty and Arian and Taylor across this sort of highlights of players who have done well, and those three guys have all forced their way into the squad, which we'll come to in a minute. So I think it was a worthwhile experience. It's a shame they didn't at least make the semi-finals, and we are a bit disappointed with that. But at the same time, served a purpose, time together for the group, and I think they'll go into the World Cup in Namibia we don't have much to compare it to. Obviously, the last time was 6 years ago, but I think they're in a considerably better place than the team was 6 years ago. And whether that's going to be enough to get that, historic first win at a World Cup, we shall see. But I think the mood is certainly pretty bullish on that front. And I guess we'll come to that shortly, but we'll see how things pan out.
Yeah, as you said, it was a good. As much as wanted to qualify for the Asia Cup, it was more of a warm up tour for the World Cup, and we can got some announcement of the squad here, which was released about 10 days ago. So I'm just going to quickly run through the Japan squad for the Under-19 World Cup. So we've got Kazuma Kato Stafford captain, Charles Harahins, Gabriel Harahins, Montgomery Harahins. All the three boys are in. Keisei Kabayoshi Doggett, Timothy Moore, Skylar Nakayama Cook, Ryuki Ozeki, Niha Palmer, Nikhil Pol, Chihaya Sakine, Hugo Tanikali, Sandev Ariane Wadige, Kai Wall, and Taylor Wall.
Yeah, so picking a squad was tough. There was genuine competition for places, and I feel bad for the guys that missed out. Um, Probably the toughest was Alex Watanabe Dawson. We haven't mentioned him yet. He went on this squad. Alex is an interesting case. He was at school at the British school in Tokyo sort of 4 or 5 years ago, and was actually named in the very first ever Japan Academy squad, but then had to pull out straight away because his parents relocated up to Scotland. Um, he got back in touch with us earlier this year, and he's been out. He spent a bit of the summer out here playing, and we decided to give him a go at this tournament just to see how he went. And he didn't really do much wrong, but he probably didn't quite do enough to push himself into that final 15. He's an off spinning sort of all rounder who bats 7-8. We've got a lot of spinners in the team, and I think probably Arian just did a little bit more with the bat to push himself ahead in that final spot. So unlucky for him, in that he was the only guy who went to the UAE for this Premier Cup, who will then not go on to the World Cup. It was a squad of 14, so he missed out. And then the two guys who come back in, Nikhil Pol and Timothy Moore. I guess the other thing to talk about is the captaincy. For Nikhil Pol, he'd been captain at the qualifier, but he was unavailable for this tournament. Nikhil's missed a lot of cricket at under 19 level, which I think we've talked about before, through school commitments, uni commitments, and I think ultimately not being able to go to this tournament and let someone else come in and take over the captaincy, it would be very tough on Kazuma to then have to hand that back, I think. I don't know quite what the conversations were in the background, but I think Ryo Sakurano, the head coach, has just sort of looked at it and felt that the continuity of the same captain for these two tournaments that are pretty close together was probably the most important thing. From what I understand, Nikhil very understanding of it, quite happy to just come back in and take on his responsibilities as a player. So yeah, that's probably the big change there. And looking at the rest of the squad, the other guy who's come in, Taylor Wall, again was the guy who did come in to that squad, having not played before, and just did enough. Didn't make bags of runs, but did back quite a lot of time and got us off to steady starts. A lot. Taylor's another half Japanese kid living in Brisbane, one of the many. And I don't think it was any surprise for anyone that Nikhil and Tim returned. Tim dominated the under-19 league again this year, and has got himself into pretty good form. So he's training. Him and Nikhil actually are both training up in Sano pretty regularly over the last few months. I've seen quite a lot of them, and they will be over the next week or two before we depart. So yeah, it's a pretty good looking squad. The other guys who have missed out, Tom O'Rear, of course, was part of the qualifier squad, but he was also unavailable for this one. So no real surprise that he wasn't able to be included. Max Yonakawa, perhaps a little bit unlucky. He was part of the World Cup qualifier squad, but again, we've got two left arm seamers, and there's a bit more depth now with the bat, which just makes it a bit hard for Max to force his way in. I have seen quite a lot of comments on the social media, an awful lot of gratitude to the Harahins family for three brothers all making up the squad. And I guess the other really interesting thing to highlight in this is that I think it's 8 of the 15 are actually eligible for the next cycle as well. So it is a pretty young group, which is something to be very excited about. And even if whatever happens on the tour, we're going to be in good stead next time round for the qualifiers to try and push for the same spot and another experience. And I think going to a second World Cup, anyone's going to be better prepared for it. So that's certainly something that we would be hoping to achieve. But yeah, plenty of talent in this squad as it is.
Yeah, it's a good squad. As you said, few all rounders in there, bowling good and batting good. So hopefully they can go well and win the inaugural first World Cup game for Japan under 19. And as you touched on before, last time or 6 years ago, it wasn't really expected to make the World Cup, was it? It was kind of we just made it, and it was a fantastic achievement. Whereas this time, it's been well planned. It's been years of preparation, getting one right, getting one ready to go. So I think, as you said, second time round, it's going to be a lot easier going there, and the expectations are, know what you're going into as such, not going to be surprised or anything like that. So, good luck to the boys, and I'm sure they'll go well.
Yeah, it's just chalk and cheese between 6 years ago. I mean, these group they're so well traveled. They've been on so many tours. They've played a lot of cricket together. Whereas, last time out we had a group of kids who some of them had never left Japan before, so it couldn't be more different. And yeah, hopefully that shows in the on-field performances as well. I don't think anyone's going to be getting overawed this time round like they were last time. This team has already played against India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, UAE, Bangladesh, all at the Asia Cup. So there's nothing they haven't seen before, really. That being said, I guess we can take this opportunity to have a look at the World Cup groups, Toddy.
We can. So we'll go through the four groups. So Group A, we've got Australia, Sri Lanka, Ireland, and Japan. So Japan sitting in Group A. Group B, we have India, Bangladesh, New Zealand, and USA. Group C, Pakistan, England, Zimbabwe, and Scotland. And Group D, South Africa, West Indies, Afghanistan, and Tanzania.
Yeah, so the way they do it, because the tournament is being co-hosted by Namibia and Zimbabwe, that means groups B and C are going to Zimbabwe and groups A and D are going to Namibia. So Japan will be straight off to Windhoek. So we'll play two teams from Group D in our World Cup warm-ups, and that's been confirmed as being Tanzania and the West Indies. So I don't think Japan have played the West Indies, certainly at men's cricket at all. The women might have played them once, maybe, a long, long time ago. So pretty exciting to get to play those two teams. And then the group stages we have on the 17th of January is when it all starts. So Japan against Sri Lanka is the first game. There's a bit of excitement around that, given Japan's partnership with Sri Lanka Cricket at the moment. And then the 20th of January, the world defending world champions, Australia, will be the opponents for Japan. And then on the 22nd of January, the Thursday, we'll be up against the Irish. So that Ireland game is certainly the one that we'll be targeting. Japan are the 16th seeds going into this tournament, which is to be expected. Ireland are the 9th seeds. So it's probably actually the best draw we could get, I think, in that Afghanistan is seeded 12th, and they're traditionally very strong at under 19 level. And New Zealand is seeded 10th. So, there's some pretty strong full members in that sort of third tier. The Irish, I don't know a huge amount about them. I think Rao and Kendall have been doing their research, but they won't be a pushover, but they won't be quite as, I wouldn't expect them to be as strong as some of the other full members. So then the way that the tournament works, if you get out of your group, three teams go through. So it's a funny, very odd setup in that you have 16 teams, but 12 go through and only 4 are eliminated after the group stages. So of those 4 that are eliminated, they play one more match each. So again, Japan would play, if Japan were to finish bottom in Group A, they would finish whoever finishes bottom in Group D. So the likelihood is that would be Tanzania again. So it's a bit of a shame you don't get to play anyone new, because we would have played them in a warm-up game. But if we do knock over one of the teams and end up sneaking through, then we would play 2 of the 3 other teams in Group D. So again, it's a bit odd in that, for example, if you finish third in your group, you play the teams that come first and second in Group D. So you don't play the team in the same finishing position as yourself. And the way the fixtures are done, one of those games would take place in Namibia, and then everyone would fly to Zimbabwe to play one game, and then it's semi-finals. So again, it's a slightly odd setup that they've done, but I guess these are the challenges of holding tournaments across 2 host countries. But it's very, very exciting time to be going to a World Cup and to be playing, at least guaranteed 5 matches against teams from around the world and measuring up against the best there is. So you're going to be watching all these games, Todd. They're going to be probably not very friendly time zones for you.
Oh, it's not too bad. I was just having a look here. So the games start at 5 p.m. JST, which will be 7 p.m. over here in Australia. So not too bad to at least watch the first innings, I suppose. It's a bit long at night, doesn't it? Keep going,
It
50 over
does.
cricket.
Yeah, it can. Goes on for a while. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and I think it's probably worth just going back to that Asia Cup under 19 sort of setup. We played against, as I mentioned, India and Pakistan and those teams previously, and the Premier Cup was in November, and the Asia Cup happened straight away, like literally 10 days later. So that's just, I don't know if it's actually finished or not. It might still be going on, but I was following the group stages, and Malaysia got that third place um, at the Premier Cup, so they qualified, and they've really struggled in a way that Japan haven't. So Malaysia were all out for 48 against Pakistan and 93 against India. Even Nepal, who qualified top, they were all out for 82 against Sri Lanka, 130 against Bangladesh, 124 against Afghanistan. The UAE went a little bit better, but they still managed to concede 430 against India, with Vaibhav Suryavanshi making 171 off 95 balls against them. So it's pretty clear that there is a gap between those sort of top associates and the full members. And it's going to be a tough ask. But it's, looking back at those, how the Japan team have gone at the Asia Cups, that yeah, we've had some low scores, but I don't think we've been bowled out for 40. We did bat our overs, make 128 for something 7 or 8 against India a year or two ago. So Vaibhav played in that game. So I think that we are comparable to these other associate teams. There's not a whole lot between them, and I think when you looked at that Premier Cup, there was probably 6 or 7 quite strong teams, and then 8 or 9 teams that perhaps weren't as strong. So you got UAE and Nepal, traditionally at under 19 Asia ACC level are strong sides, and then you got Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, probably all grouped together as the other 4 teams who are looking to get that final space, that final spot. So yeah, a little bit to take under consideration there, and it will give us a bit of insight as to how the team will go. But Australia, Sri Lanka, Ireland, lots in all of those games, so should be exciting.
Very exciting. Just having a look, you mentioned the under-19 Asia Cup. So the final was actually yesterday. Pakistan batted first, made 347 for 8, and India only made his 156 in their reply.
Wow.
One noticeable player here for Pakistan is Samir Minhas. He made 172 of 113. I had a look at his matches for the tournament. In the first game, he made 177 not out against Malaysia, 9 against India, 44 UAE, 69 not out Bangladesh, and 172 in the final. So he might be an exciting player for the future.
He can play, sounds like. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think the other thing to cover, I guess, is the staffing for the World Cup. So we've already mentioned Rayo and Kendall. They were coach and assistant coach for the qualifier, and they'll reprise those roles. Myself, I'll be going as team manager. Never been to Namibia, so I wasn't going to miss out on that gig. And then Duncan Harrison will be coming as in his consulting role that he's been doing with most of the teams across the last 12 months. Hiromu Inui will be traveling as the trainer, as he has done for the under-19s for the last sort of 5-6 years now. And Benjamin Ito Davis will be traveling as a coach / social media bod. So a team of 6 staff, which is exciting. One more than we had previously. So yeah, the team will be well looked after on this tour, and it'll be nice being in the one place for the whole time. I think Windhoek's supposed to be a pretty good place, so it'll be some of the things I've got to do over the next 2 weeks in my role as manager is look up what there is to do and try and find some fun activities, maybe a safari or whatever that we can get out and do and keep the boys entertained. But certainly once the cricket starts, it comes pretty thick and fast, and sort of 10th, 12th, 17th, 20th, 22nd. That's 5 games in 12 days, and what with recovery, and I guess that biggest gap is between the the final warm up on the 12th and the first game of the tournament proper on the 17th. But actually, there's quite a lot of stuff going on in that time with briefings and media commitments and all of that sort of stuff, as well as official training. So those days won't be as empty as we'd like. So there'll be plenty going on still.
Yes, very exciting. But like you said, there's plenty to do, Alan. And as we saw in Oman, you're a very busy man.
Yeah, well, I'll get a lot busier if we do make it through. But at least this time, the responsibility of changing all the flights isn't on me. I can put that back onto the ICC, so I won't be staying up until 3 in the morning changing flights if we do knock over one of those big boys. So, Todd, I mean, I think the under-19s, you and I will try and check in during the World Cup, and I'll try and give you some updates from the tour. But the other thing there is to talk about really is just looking ahead to 2026. There's a few things in the pipeline. I guess the most important one to raise is actually the change, and you and I haven't discussed this yet, so this will be news for you. There has been a change in the ICC, what they call the EPPC, which is the Event Participation Pathway Criteria. So you probably know that we have to have, or everyone has to have 10, a minimum of 10 under-19 teams playing a minimum of 5 matches to be able to participate in the World Cup qualifiers. There are a lot of rumors going into the most recent round of ICC board meetings, which were held in late November, I think, about whether the World Cup was going to change to T20, the under-19 World Cup. There's been a lot of talk that might happen. That, as my understanding is not going to happen. And instead, they've actually doubled down on the 50 overs structure. The full members were very keen for that to remain. And instead, they're now saying that the participation criteria is going to change to every country, sorry, having a minimum of 6 teams playing 5 matches in a calendar year of a minimum of 40 overs. So
Okay.
at the moment, all the domestic cricket in Japan under 19, under 15 level is T20. So as it stands, we don't meet that criteria. But actually, it's something that we've been talking about for a while anyway, of playing a bit more 50 over cricket at under 19 level, especially as the under 16, sorry, at the ACC and the under 19s, all they play internationally is 50 over cricket, and yet all we play domestically is T20. So it didn't really make sense. So the upshot of this is that we're going to make a change to the way the Futures League is run. So anyone who follows Japan cricket closely over the last 3 or 4 years will know that the Futures League has been a 4-team T20 comp held over one weekend. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change that to a 6-team. We don't know if it's going to be 40 or 50 overs yet. I think I might prefer to keep it to 40 overs, just for this first year, see how that goes. But we will make it under 19 rather than under 23, which it has been. Try and get the 6 teams together, and we'll play 3 matches across a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the following 2 matches the following Saturday, Sunday. So 5 rounds, every team plays everyone once, and that's just a straight league table, no final or anything. But that means we tick those ICC participation criteria for under 19 World Cup, and it means the Futures League will have a few more teams. Because I mean, when we started the Futures League, we were struggling to get sort of 45 players. Whereas now we had 130 applications for the Futures League last year, I think. So we have the players to do that now. And then what we will do instead of getting rid of the T20 format for the Futures League, we're going to move that to October. So over a weekend in October, that will remain in its current format. It'll remain under 23s, but it will be for domestic players only instead. So a lot of players fly in for the Futures League. I think last year we had like 22, 25 players fly in, which is obviously a lot. The best part of sort of 2 teams, really. So we won't let people from overseas come and play in the T20 Futures League unless they didn't take part in the tournament in April. So, for example, a Taylor War, who missed the Futures League this year and only came to find out about Japan cricket sort of in the summer, sort of July time, he would be a perfect example of someone who could then come and play in that Futures League as a chance to show what he can do ahead of the following year. So The nice thing about moving it to that time, I think, is that we're picking Japan players based on how they perform this season, um, rather than picking Japan players at the start of April based on how they played the year before. And you can actually have a bit more evidence to go on when picking teams and looking at the strengths of the players that we're selecting. So I think that's a pretty exciting development. Of course, we're going to come up with a couple of new team names. I might pick your brains on those, Toddy. But what do you make of that? What do you think about that as a development? I've
I
just
think
got
that's positive.
throwing you under the bus with this little bit on here.
That's okay. I think that's probably positive change. If the pathway for the under 19s, they've doubled down and said it's definitely going to stay 50 overs, then you need to condition players to play longer format. Can't have players, especially local Japanese players in Japan playing 20 over cricket, then having to go play a 50 over World Cup tournament or play, these tournaments in Asia or anywhere really that are 50 overs, not 20. So positive change. And I think you've done really well with adding an extra tournament for 50 overs and then catering to both sides where you've got the T20s still happening for local players in October. I think that's a fantastic development. Well done to everyone at JCA. It's great thinking and great initiative.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that and how that all pans out. It should be good. Should be a good few days at the start of April. And again, we keep that sort of domestic feel back in October. So yeah, looking forward to that one. No update, unfortunately. Moving on to the women's stuff. The women's under 19s and the ACC Women's Premier Cup are all scheduled to be happening next year. Rumors, fly around in terms of dates. The last I heard was that the women's tournament could be February or March, and the ACC Women's Under 19s, which would be the first time the Japan Under 19 team take the field, that might be looking like July now. I was originally told that could be sort of April, May, but that might be a little bit later, which actually works better for us. So hopefully that is the case, but nothing concrete on those. The one thing that we do have that's concrete is that the men's EAP will be held in Japan next year, and it will be a 9-team tournament taking place in both Sano and Nagoya at the new ground for the Asian Games. So that's going to be an interesting one. I don't know if I'm allowed to share the fixtures and the groups yet. We'll have to talk offline about that, Toddy. But we did find out about those on Friday last week. So Japan can start planning. Home advantage, but at the same time, it's going to be a new square in both Sano and in Nagoya. So I don't think the home advantage will count for a huge amount, but the tournament will follow directly after the Japan Premier League, as it always does. So at least our boys would get a chance to play on the track at the JPL.
Yeah, very exciting, especially to go down to Nagoya, the new facility there for the Asian Games. So I know things are moving along quite quickly down there, and as Alan said, we've got a couple of new clay going in at Sano. So very exciting to see how that plays, and I'm sure it'll play well. Everyone's done their due diligence on it and decided that it's the right way to go. We had, lengthy discussion back in October about it at the ground, and everyone's on the same page. And I know you guys have been doing a bit of work in the last couple of weeks to get everything moving. So very exciting.
Yeah, I was down in Nagoya a couple of weeks ago now and had a quick look around the place. Went and visited the venue and checked out a couple of hotels. So I think it'll be a good few days down there for the teams that go. And certainly come the Asian Games, it'll be a great place to go and watch the cricket. It's such a, the ground is 25 minutes away from like the center of Nagoya. So, it's something that we'll probably talk about a bit more in the build-up, but I would be very much encouraging anyone who likes watching a bit of cricket to go and get to that ground and watch the Japan Games at least, because it's a fun place to go and have a look, go and eat some miso katsu. I had a lot of that when I was down there. That's the dish that they're famous for down in Nagoya, and yeah, certainly did a job in the depths of winter when I was down there. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer come September and May when these tournaments are on. Not much to update on the JPL and WJPL. Those will tick over as they have done in the past. As I mentioned, the JPL will be immediately before that EAP, so Golden Week as it always is. WJPL will probably be a week or two earlier than it was this year. It'll be the end of May, so rather than the beginning of June. So I think that's kind of how the domestic season is shaping up. It's going to be keeping me busy whilst I'm in Namibia, trying to manage all the stuff back here and making sure that our competitions are all set up, all the teams are are in, and everything's the way it should be. We have lost one of my umpires, Adam Burst, who's done so much umpiring over the last couple of years. He's now actually been seconded by the Asian Games Organizing Committee to be working with them in Nagoya. So he's told me he might not be available to umpire as much next year. So that's going to be a challenge to replace him. But it's one of those things that we have to make sure the rest of our umpires are getting their opportunities. And actually, one exciting development is that the ICC are holding a ICC Level 2 umpiring course for to educate umpires around the region in Manila in March. So I'm hoping to send a few of our guys over there to get some experience and get some learning. So that will be exciting.
Very exciting. And I heard a little whisper that Adam was going out and working for them. So that's good. But like you said, he's probably one of the best umpires now, isn't he? He went to Fiji.
Went to Fiji. He
Yeah.
does a lot. He does a lot of umpiring for us. It's worth shouting out actually that Vipin Sukwal, another one of our umpires, actually went over to the UAE for that ACC Premier Cup and had a chance to umpire over there as well. So, we are getting more of our umpires some more opportunities. So, again, once people are hanging up their boots, the umpiring pathway is a pretty exciting one now. There are a lot more opportunities than there were, particularly through the ACC. But yeah, not a bad way to spend an afternoon if you like your cricket.
Most definitely. Just going to touch on a couple other things. So, did you hear about the WBBL game, which was called off after the ball was rolled into the pitch?
I did see this. This was one that yeah, brought back some memories. I remember our former groundsman Yoshi Uehara rolling a walkie-talkie into the pitch once at Sano. So we just cracked on and played, I think. But I haven't seen a game called off because of a ball being run over. So you're the turf expert, Toddy. What did you make of it?
Yeah, so this is a challenge in between wicket. It's so the challenge is that in between innings, when teams are doing warm ups, you've seen it on the ground. I get a bit vocal. Balls fly over the wicket, like they'll throw them in, or they'll miss them, or the person doing the fielding will overthrow, and the ball can roll over the pitch, and you're on the roller, and if the ball runs under the roller, there's nothing you can do. So my understanding is this one, the ball came over the pitch. The guy in the roller didn't see it, rolled straight over it. They tried to do repairs, but they decided to abandon the match because they said that it was too dangerous and the hole in the pitch had significantly changed the wicket. So they were saying that there was a disadvantage to the batting team batting second.
Oh, so it was in between innings.
Yes, so there wasn't a um, picture. I didn't see a picture of the ball rolled into the pitch. There's a picture of the groundsman on the wicket trying to fix it. So it must have been on a length or somewhere where, down the middle of the wicket where it's going to alter the play. So they ended up actually abandoning the match. So, which is a bit of a shame. But yes, going back to the day Yoshi rolled the walkie-talkie into the pitch, I remember walking over there and Yoshi pulling out his walkie-talkie. And I said, Yoshi, what happened? And he said, I rolled it. I said, what do you mean you rolled it? He goes, and he pulled it out and picked it up. So
Yeah, it was like a pancake.
we have seen it happen. So it can happen, but it wasn't a ball that time. That was just Yoshi dropping his walkie-talkie.
Well, I think Bebe had actually thrown the walkie-talkie to him to catch whilst he was on the roller, and he obviously dropped it. And he slid down the front of the roller and got squashed. Um, Other big news in associate cricket at the moment, Todd, is the Joe Burns story. I don't know how up to speed you are on that. Joe Burns, obviously a teammate of our Japan national team captain, Kendall Kadawaki Fleming at Norths in Brisbane. He was captaining the Italian side that qualified for the Men's World Cup, which will be taking place in about 6 weeks. And he has been unceremoniously dumped from their squad. The squad for their training camp that they're holding in the UAE was announced recently, and he wasn't in it. And it was announced that Wayne Madsen was going to be captain. And then about a week later, a statement came out confirming that he will not be considered for selection for the World Cup. So a little bit going on there, Todd. Do you know much about that?
I've read some different reports. It's a bit strange. My understanding, if you might stand corrected if you have more information than me, is there was some issues with reported that Joe had some things which are in the back end which he wanted sorted out with preparation and stuff on the ground when they're at there in the World Cup, and that they thought they came to an agreement on a few things, and they said they didn't. It's a bit each way. I'm not really sure what has really happened, but there seems to be some kind of misunderstanding or disagreement going ahead, and they've ultimately decided that he's been left out, which is a bit of a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you just look at it from the point of view that a big name player who's played Test cricket for Australia, being an associate member, you would hope would be someone who brings positive change and a positive environment. And if the fact that he's ended up whatever's happened, there's been something
Mm.
political, and he's being left out for non-cricketing reasons. It sounds like, and that's always disappointing, just for the sake of having your best players at the tournament. I know that Joe's like he was never really a T20 superstar. He was a guy who played, Test cricket and a lot of red ball cricket and had a very good record. But and he's not a spring chicken either. I think he's 35,
Mm.
36. But he's certainly capable, and certainly just that experience and know-how would have been very useful. I listened to the Emerging Cricket podcast about this yesterday, and I'd really recommend anyone who doesn't listen to that podcast, who is curious about Italy or just how emerging associate cricket runs, to go and listen to that, because Bez and Nick do a really good job breaking it down. They talk about a few things, and from what I understand and from what I gleaned from their conversation, was that there are um, differences around money, which is always an ugly thing to get talking about when you talk about representing your country at the World Cup. Um, I think there was some kind of pay dispute. I don't know the details. They didn't have huge amount of information on it, but they knew there was something. And from what it sounds like, they make the point that the fastest way to become a millionaire is to join an associate cricket team as a billionaire and work your way down. Um, so you don't go into a cricket to make money. So if it is, financial differences that have caused him to be left out in the end, it's a sad way for things to end, especially as he had made a lot about going back to Italy to represent his family, and I think he had relocated there for a little while. So it's disappointing, and it's one of the things that it probably sounds a bit of a warning shot for other associates and ourselves included, as to when you bring in sort of big personalities who don't necessarily have uh, the ties to the association, and if, I guess they haven't done. If the differences are financial, that's one thing, but it does sound like there was more to it too, and that there were differences on how the things should be run. And I guess, like, ultimately the association sets the tone, right? That's certainly the way that we always do it. We make sure we educate our players onto what our vision and philosophy is, and people need to know that straight away when they come in. And the no one player is bigger than the association. So whatever differences they had, it's a shame they couldn't work them out. It's a shame that Joe, I don't know what else he's doing in January and February this year if he's got anything else on, but it's a shame that he couldn't have said, all right, let's put these differences aside for the sake of going to the World Cup and putting our best foot forward. The groups have been drawn. They've not got the hardest group in the world. You'd fancy them to knock over one or two of those teams. They're not completely out of the question. They've got Bangladesh. They've got um, Nepal in their group. So winning a game of the World Cup is, something to celebrate. And I think Italy will have a slightly less chance without Joe Burns in the ranks, even if he's there as a captain, as a sort of mentor. But the one thing that the emerging cricket boys did bring up, which I thought was interesting, was that there hadn't been any other players having the same issues. Like, there's been no quotes or words from other players in support of their departing captain, which suggests that it really was an individual thing that's kind of got the better of him.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I wouldn't expect much from any other players to make comment on it. I mean, for them to go to a World Cup, as it would have been for Joe's, the pinnacle of cricket, it's just so unfortunate that we're on the eve of a World Cup that's the first qualified for, and then this drama's happening in the background, and unfortunately, Joe's not going to go. I just think it's such a shame and very disappointing. But Italy cricket will move on because they have to because they're in a World Cup. Like at the end of the day, that's what
Yeah,
it's all about, isn't it?
yeah, and they've gone and recruited a new player in JJ Smuts from South Africa. So they've one door opens, one door closes, another one opens. So yeah, they'll be all right. It'll be interesting to follow them. Final thing, Toddy, we were going to talk a little bit about the Japan Cricket Awards night. So we had record numbers at the awards night this year. I think we had about 150 people at the MKI office in Higashi Nakano, and Sabaras Ravichandran picking up the Player of the Year award from the men's side yet again. But we did have a new winner for the women. So Erica Taguchi Quinn was named the women's cricket Player of the Year. So good achievement for her, and a lot of awards dished out, and a lot of fun had by everyone. A few people moving on for drinks afterwards, and yeah, really good event. And next year it looks like MKI are actually moving offices, so they've promised us a bigger room in their office in Omotesando, which is really bang in the center of Tokyo. And apparently they were telling us their new office is the biggest office space in Omotesando, which is very much very much peak Tokyo. So it should be fun next year too.
Yes, looked like a fun night, and congratulations and well done to all award winners. And it's a great night to celebrate not just all the players and umpires, but also all the staff at the JCA who work very hard throughout the year to make sure cricket happens in Japan. So well done to everyone.
No, it sounds like a good note to wrap it up, doesn't it, Toddy? I think yeah, it's been a good year, and both domestically, internationally, there's been a lot happening in Japan cricket, and as we wrap up this year and look back, I think it's one that will be for the record books. World Cup qualifiers, knocking over teams ranked significantly higher than us in both the men's and the women's. New tournaments getting adapted, professional players coming over. Yeah, a whole lot of things going on. So we'll just continue step by step to take that on further, and 2026 will hopefully bring more. I don't know how do I phrase it, more firsts for Japan cricket, and bigger and better in the things that we are doing. So let's see how that rolls out.
Definitely, and I'd like to make an announcement that I will be back next year with that one. So, I'm sure there's many people lining up for our jobs, Ella, but we will be back.
Signed on for another year. Good on you, Toddy.
So,
All
we
right,
had a lot
guys.
of fun. We had a lot of fun this year. So, thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back in the new year for an Under-19 World Cup pre-pod. I think, Alan, is that probably the next one?
Yeah, I reckon we'll probably do one from Namibia. I reckon, Toddy. I reckon I'll be
Yep,
able to give you a bit of an insight and maybe pull in a few guests as well. So, in the meantime, everyone, happy New Year. As Todd said, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the show. Do make sure you, if you have the energy to comment, give us a 5-star rating, help other people find the show. And yeah, we will be back in the new year. Toddy, Oscar Samadesta, everyone else, yo yo toshio.